What is up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to Paizo Friday. I'm Dan. I am sitting here with Jason Keeley. We're going to be talking about Pact Worlds for a while, and then after Jason, we'll have Robert G. McCreary, the Creative Director for Starfinder, come in. He'll be talking about the Armory. And then after that, we've got Erik Mona coming in, our Chief Creative Officer and Publisher for Paizo. And we'll be talking about the Pathfinder Playtest for a bit. So should be a good show. I hope you're all having a great Friday. To start things off, everybody, Jason Keeley here.
Hi, everybody.
His name is actually
That's it. I'm out of here.
spelled wrong. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's actually an E there. E is
three E's. Well, that's no big. That's fine.
You're just showing off at that point.
Look, I didn't choose that name. It was chosen for me.
I'm kidding. You never show off. You're good. It's fine. So anyway, we are here to talk about Pact Worlds. And Jason, what did you do on the Pact Worlds book?
Well, I am listed as the lead developer for that book. I did a lot of work on a lot of the text. Of course, we have a good sized team who and everyone gets to help out on everything. That was sort of in early days when we didn't have as many people as we have currently. So which is why a good portion of it fell on to myself.
Right.
But that's mainly the getting the text in, checking it over, making sure it fits all the canon that we want, making sure things are spelled right and are interesting, and tweaking it where it needs to be tweaked. That was a load of fun. It's a load of fun. This book, yeah.
And the book was released earlier this month?
Yeah, early March.
Okay.
Mid-March.
Oh, it's April now.
Oh my God, you're right.
Oh man, last month.
It's almost, and April's almost over.
Time does fly.
Yes.
PaizoCon coming up in May. So if somebody has not purchased this book yet, has not seen it yet, what type of thing would they find by opening the pages of the Pact Worlds book?
So the Pact Worlds is our core setting for Starfinder. It's our sort of the main galaxy that where most of the players might be from, and it contains a lot of Paizo history, that sort of solar system. It's because it's where Galarian once was. And when you get the Pact Worlds, you're going to find detailed write-ups on every planet / space station / world ship / asteroid belt / sun in the solar system. And as well after that, we have some spaceship stuff, some NPC write-ups, and some player options. So we got a bunch of archetypes that are sort of tied into the Pact Worlds, some new equipment, some feats, a lot of good stuff. For everybody.
All right. So, and this is the part that I think is really interesting. You mentioned Galarian. You mentioned Pathfinder and the history there. How much, if somebody really knows Pathfinder, really knows the lore, how much are they going to recognize by looking through these pages?
If you've picked up and read the Pathfinder campaign setting Distant Worlds from years ago, and maybe even played the Iron Gods Adventure Path, which that was sort of tied into, you're going to recognize some things. A little bit. You're going to recognize the names of the planets. You're going to recognize a little bit of the citizens of those planets, in which we sort of talked about, the Versites from Verces, the Verthani now. They have their own sort of name. The names are always changing. But what we've done from that, we've really just sort of, and in that one, each of those planets got a couple pages with some plot hooks and whatnot, but we've sort of essentially expanded that and updated it for our Starfinder setting. It's basically, I would say, it's sort of like the difference between talking about Londinium, that old Roman colony that was a hub of trade, and modern day London. So that it's something that these planets have existed for years, and sometimes long before even the humans on Galarian started walking upright, and have a load of history. But we want to talk about this space between what happened in sort of the Pathfinder universe and what is happening now there. So you'll see some things that have changed, but some things have essentially stayed the same, especially the planet Octurne, which is the creepy Lovecraftian kind of planet. Right. We're always talking about how, there's this weird mound here that is, maybe it's going to give birth to an ancient god or something like that. And it's still there, and it's still pulsating, and it's still weird, but there's a lot of other stuff that's new,
right,
and fun.
What's your favorite new thing?
My favorite new thing has. Oh boy, that's a
playing
question.
favorites. It's rough.
Playing favorites is always rough. One of my favorite new things is I mean, we gotta talk about the burning archipelago, which is in the sun. And we sort of maybe hinted at it back in Distant Worlds, but it has been discovered now sort of pretty recently. It's only a couple hundred years. It's older than that. We don't know who built it or for what reason, but now it's been inhabited by people of the Pact Worlds and is sort of like a hub of trade and whatnot. And it's in the sun, which is just weird. It's just a bunch of bubbles with lots of little city-states sort of essentially in there. And, they have their own politics and intrigue and whatnot.
They have a church.
Yeah, well, I mean, the people who seem to basically have found it were the worshippers of Sarenrae, the sun goddess. And so they have sort of set up camp, and they control sort of who gets to go in and out. And, they have the biggest bubble.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the comments in the chat, and apparently you're chatting.
I'm chatting. Ha. Yes, that must be my wife watching us through my Twitch account. Hi.
So if you want to follow Jason Keeley on Twitter, it's actually at and then hers Weston, which
That's
you see
me.
right there in the chat. So feel free to follow him. Incredibly entertaining. I really like the chat or the Twitter that Jason puts together. So I've got a couple photos here that I pulled together
Sure,
I wanted to talk a little bit about the ships. And
Yes, we got some really good stuff.
Yeah, I think that the the starship battles and the way that works is incredibly fun and really intuitive, and I think it works out well. But I wanted to talk about some of the ships, so I grabbed a couple here, and I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about some of them.
All of the art in Pact Worlds is just fantastic too. By the way.
It's gorgeous.
Any of them. It's all so good.
I think everything I've seen, I think Starfinder in general. I think everything's just been gorgeous.
Definitely.
It's just really so pretty. Which, by the way, we got our new Starfinder background around us right now.
We're in space.
I'm pretty happy about that. So the first one that I want to talk about are these right here. These are the Druid ships, and I think that they're really interesting because they're so organic.
Yeah,
and just incredibly organic.
Yeah. These are the ships of the Xenowardens, who are a sort of a faction of sort of space druids that we have in the game. And indeed, all of their ships are living ships. They're organic things that they grow in sort of these nurseries. And as you can see, they sort of provide their own oxygen on board because of their trees. And see the one up in the sort of upper right-hand corner. A bunch of them mush together to form that ship on the upper left-hand corner. So they're basically like seed pods and then grow into sort of this larger thing. And they all have empathic connections between the ships and the pilots. Good stuff. Good fun stuff.
There we go.
There
Sorry,
we go.
I'm trying to control at the same time.
Sure.
I'm getting better at it, so there's
Cool.
that. So yeah, I think that when you think about like the classes in like Pathfinder, everything is so branded. Like so, a druid, everything around them is nature and like mud and grass and trees and everything. And I just thought it was really interesting that it's kind of branded to their ships and it carries across. And I thought that was really interesting to see. I think the next one that I want to talk about are some of these Hell Knight ships.
Oh, the Hell Knights. The Hell Knights are still around. I guess they have sort of become a bit of their own sort of law enforcement agency in the stars and have just continued. There's a couple new orders, essentially. And all of their ships are just sort of in that Hell Knight branded spikes everywhere, dark metals, and lots of red because, they still... It's less that they don't worship devils so much as they just sort of like appreciate the order that is imposed in the sort of hell structure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I know that when we get our business cards made up, we get to kind of go through and find artwork, and the Hell Knight from Starfinder was one of the first. Right. I was like, that's going to be on my business cards. I think it looks gorgeous. So.
And in Pact Worlds, there's we have an archetype that basically lets you sort of join the Hell Knight order. Nice. So you can now be a space Hell Knight.
I mean,
good stuff.
Done.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm seeing in the chat someone's asking if they can ask non-Pact World questions.
Oh no. Well, I mean, yeah.
I would stick with Pact Worlds. I'm hoping we have time for a Q&A after we start talking about some of the stuff that we want to cover. So if we do have time for a Q&A, I'd prefer to stick to Pact Worlds. But if we don't drift too far off, I'm perfectly fine with that, too.
You can also, Rob will be here in a few minutes, and you can ask him stuff,
And that is true. We've got Rob coming in to talk about the Armory, but we're also going to be talking about Starfinder in general after that. So we've got some things to cover, and then we can do a Q&A there too. So hopefully by the end of today, we'll be able to answer some questions for you. So then, as far as taking some of the history of Pathfinder and using that to weave in some of the lore for Starfinder, that's kind of kind of already has the groundwork laid in, and you get to evolve it with time. The thing that I'm really fascinated by is reading the core rulebook and seeing this giant solar system that you put inside the covers of the books, and then getting Pact Worlds and seeing how much more is in there just based off of these one little pictures that you see. What is the process of looking at these images and saying that could be this?
Well, yeah, again, we sort of have the history that we sort of can branch off on. And each of these worlds could essentially be their own campaign setting. They're also varied and vivid and full of different ideas, that it actually just becomes a matter of figuring out what is the most important thing about that world or asteroid belt or what have you, and sort of honing in on that and sort of talking about that. Whereas you could spend, because essentially, we're talking about Galarian, and Galarian has provided Pathfinder and Paizo with dozens of campaign setting books about each of them only about a specific country, right? And it drills down on that and talks about like cities in there and adventure sites and that sort of thing. And we've got to do that on sort of a macro scale and talk about a single planet. It doesn't just get its own book. We put 13, 14 planets in a single book. So it actually becomes a matter of figuring out what we don't want to talk about, or what basically, essentially in the sort of art terms, is getting rid of all the marble that's not the sculpture, so we can show you what is the most interesting and vivid parts of each of these worlds.
Right. So I don't even know if you can answer this.
Sure.
What could you not include that you really wanted to? That and I'm sure you can't tell us too much about stuff, but what could you not include, if anything, because of the size of the book and it's a giant solar system.
It's a giant solar system. We talk about there's this world ship called the Adari, which is from another not galaxy, another system, I should say, that is essentially home to the Kasatha race. They're from another planet, and their planet was dying, so they are headed out to basically find new. Someone was like, "Hey, check out these planets over here. They're ripe for colonization." So they headed over here to the Pact Worlds. But then when they got here, which took so long because they didn't have fast sunlight travel on this generation ship.
Okay.
It's a massive ship. It's a ship that is essentially the size and it's kind of got this sort of circular thing. So it has gravity all along the edges, so that people live kind of like around this way. So it's basically a big cylinder with a tube running through the middle with sort of transit. All of that is about the size of 3 central parks about. Okay. But they fit their generations grow up, and the buildings sort of rising up, down, we didn't get to talk about their journey. We didn't get to really talk too much about just sort of how they integrated into the Pact Worlds, and what they do now, and what they're doing with their ship, because they can't take over one of the Pact Worlds planets. They're already full of people, so they decided to stay on their own ship and sort of use that as a planet. We didn't get to talk about that. We also didn't get to talk about the Veskarium, which is the homeworld of the Vesk, which is a completely different system, and maybe one day will be its own book or be included in its own book. But again, the Vesk are one of our core races, and we didn't really get to talk about like where they're from and their culture yet. So that was unfortunate, but again, we didn't have the room to fit. We just wanted to focus on the sort of one solar system at a time.
Right. I think it's a great book. I love the book. I mean, just sitting down and just reading it from cover to cover is actually really interesting. So, and then it helps put, when I'm playing in any of the modules, any of the Intrapath stuff, it helps put it in perspective a little bit more, so you know where everybody comes from.
Yeah,
so.
and with the Adventure Pass, we often go into greater detail on a very specific, like a city or maybe even a country or whatever. So you'll see more and more us drilling down when it's important for an adventure or when we think it's interesting.
Right.
We have a lot of interesting to say.
Well, we've got time for maybe one more thing, and then maybe we can take a few questions after this. So, is there anything about Pact Worlds that you really just want to shout about and talk about and show off? Because you've got the book over there.
I've got the book.
If you've not seen it, it's a beautiful book.
I mean, look at this.
Gorgeous.
I have shown this piece of art over and over and over again, and I can't help it, but it's just so good. Let me find it real quick. This piece of art right here.
I got you right up there.
Okay. This piece of art right here is sort of a spread on the planet. You can see the planet Triaxis, which is our kind of our dragon planet, or sort of basically it's got a little still a bit of fantasy. It's more fantasy leaning than a lot of the other planets, where dragons are vying for power. But now the dragons own corporations and have their own mercenary companies at their disposal. And that piece of art just looks like something from a really cool anime or something like that. This sort of like dragon armies, and you're like, I want to go do something there.
Well, we've got a few more minutes here. Let's take some questions if you would like to.
Sure.
Let's see. We've got first one would be, there it is. Did any of the Starfinder races begin as Pathfinder races, or were they all created with sci-fi tropes in mind?
A lot of them were created. We've talked about this Distant Worlds campaign setting book. There's a player companion called People of the Stars, all sort of tied in with the Iron God's adventure path. So we've seen Kasatha before, we've seen Lashunta before, we've seen androids before in Pathfinder, and now we've sort of updated them and brought them forward. We've seen Yusoki, the rat folk. That's a classic fantasy trope of rat people. And now we've sort of updated them for Starfinder. We've added a few more new ones. The Sheeran, our bug people, the Vesk, our lizard people. We've got, and in the Pact Worlds, it's got 5 new races, one of which will be familiar to Pathfinder players, the Strix, the bird, sort of bird-winged people of Cheliax and places. And then we added, of course, we had to add in playable robots and other weirder things, just things that don't look even remotely humanoid.
Right.
Which is the fun thing about Starfinders. We can throw out all these things and talk about to have jellyfish people or floating clouds or 7-armed starfish people.
I'm in.
Yeah, that's Pact Worlds.
Playable.
Why not?
Let's see. We had there's one. Where's that first one that I saw? There was the question about the reason for the gap. I can't remember where it went though.
It's up there. Yeah, how much of the actual reason for the gap is hidden in the?
There it is. Yes. Yes.
We're still keeping playing that close to the chest. That's one of our big campaign secrets. Just as we never really said what happened to Aridin. We're not really going to tell you what the gap is all about. We know. We have some ideas. I mean, I think we know, but we're not gonna say much about that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Let's see. There is Drift Beacon resemble to the Starstone, or does the Starstone resemble to Drift Beacons?
I kind of know what that means. I think Drift Beacons I always picture the Starstone as actually looking like a stone, a rock. It's a piece of meteorite that fell to the ground. The Drift Beacons are more technological. They are bits or byte, whatever it is from Tron. They'll I kind of picture them kind of looking like one of those very angular, very maybe even a star kind of shaped.
When they work, do they go into different?
I don't know. We haven't really explained exactly how they work.
That's how it works.
They could totally just jut all around.
Let's see. There is clip-on. I'll try clip-on microphones for Rob's segment. So we'll switch over in between the break. So see if that makes a difference. Sorry about that. Let's see. How many pairs of shorts do I own? I own more shorts than pants. I have 2 pairs of pants. Everything else is shorts.
Terrific.
They start out of pants. I just cut them off. Let's see. That actually kind of brings us somewhat close to the end of the segment. I want to basically, when it comes to Pact Worlds and all of the things that you can find in there, when you were making it, what were you hoping would be the most immediate section of player that would get what they need out of this book? What was the biggest impetus for that?
I mean, the players who, like you were saying, who want the context for who their characters are, and you can basically sort of grab any one of these areas and sort of be like, oh, my character's from this area, and now I know this about his or her history or what have you, which is sort of keying into that. Each of the worlds sort of presents a new theme for your player character. So when you're talking about, oh, I'm from I want to be a space pirate from the diaspora. Now you can be a space pirate from the diaspora. You can be a gladiator from Akaton. You can be a roboticist from Avalon. That sort of thing is sort of like lots of different hooks to sort of even create new characters. And with 5 or so new races, there's also just lots of stuff to play.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Well, Jason, thanks so much for taking the time to sit in with us and talking about the Pact Worlds book. This has been out since March. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, I highly recommend it. It's a really good book. And then we're going to take a break for a second. Sure. We're going to set up again. I'll grab those lavaliers and throw some lavalier mics on. And then we'll be back with Robert G. McCreary, and we'll be talking about the Armory. Right. So sit tight, everybody.
Goodbye.
For Jason, thank you. All right, and we're back. Thank you for waiting. We got reset up. We're using lavaliers now. I might need to get up and redo the levels just a little bit if it's too loud or too quiet. But the levels are looking okay on there anyway. So let me know along the way if we need to do something more to it. Anyway, welcome back, everybody, to Paizo Friday. I'm now here with Robert G. McCreary, the Creative Director for Starfinder.
That's correct.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the Armory.
Yes.
Which is a book that will be coming out
August 2018.
Yeah. So right around Gen Con.
Right around Gen Con, just in time for Gen Con.
Nice. And I've had a chance to see a few little pieces of it. It's pretty amazing. I'm really excited for the book. Overall, what is the general purpose of the Armory?
So the general purpose of Armory is basically a big book of equipment. People who are playing Starfinder already, they're going to know that there's all sorts of, every item of equipment has a level that kind of corresponds to your character level, and there wasn't room to put all of that in the core rulebook. So we've basically gone and just thrown as much equipment as we could, gear of all kinds, into this book to give players anything they could possibly want for their players, and GMs for their NPCs and monsters too.
What are you most excited for people to
Wow,
see?
I don't know. There are so many things in this book that we just. One of the big things is weapons, of course, because every adventurer needs a good weapon. So we've got more levels of weapons. Pretty much any level you're at, you want a good weapon for. There's so many more options now. In terms of all the weapon categories, we've got some really cool new weapons in there too. Disintegrator weapons are a new thing that we're doing, which it's just what's on the tin. They disintegrate things. So what's cooler than that? And you can see we have a couple different versions of those, both pistols and long arms. Another one that I really like is the Hydra Cannon. This is a big plasma weapon, and it shoots these multiple streams of plasma that all kind of snake together and looks like this crazy multi-headed serpent, much like a Hydra. Plus, it's just got a crazy name. And then there's other fun stuff like the shell knuckles are a fun little thing. It's basically a glove that you load shotgun shells into the back of, and when you punch something, the shotgun shells go off. So I don't know if you're scuba diving and you run into a vortex shark, you can punch them on the nose and the shotgun shells go off. So those are just a few of the things that. All sorts of weapons and stuff.
So then the idea is it's each punch is like a double barrel shotgun blast.
Yeah,
Wow.
Exactly.
There you go. I like that idea. That's really cool.
We've got another really cool thing with tied in with weapons in this book too, which is weapons manufacturers.
Okay.
This is a little thing at the end of the weapons section. We've got a list of some of the major weapons manufacturers, and if you want to further customize your weapons, you can pick to buy a gun from this one manufacturer, and that'll add an additional effect to your weapons. So there's one in there. It's called Erebani Arms Limited. This is a Drow arms dealing house. They're mentioned in the core rule book, but this is something that I had a lot of fun with because an old character of mine, old Drow character, her last name was Erebani, and at some point, either for a sci-fi game I was running or something, I created this Erebani Arms as a concept, this arms dealing thing, and then when we were putting this together, it was like, well, Erebani Arms, that's the perfect arms dealer.
It writes itself.
So they're not the only thing you can get. Abadar Corp weapons is basically just an extra thing you can do to customize your weapons.
Right. Can you get sponsored?
Not in the rules, but you certainly can. That's part of the campaign. Another thing that we've got also tying into weapons for customization is weapon accessories. This is something that a lot of people have been asking for, and we've got things like scopes. That's a pretty common thing. All sorts of scopes and sights you can add to your weapons. We've got bayonet brackets, so you can put on a melee weapon at the end of the barrel of your rifle. Grenadier brackets if you want that underslung grenade launcher to shoot those kind of things. Yeah, so tons of ways to customize weapons and new weapons.
Right. Oh, that's great. I think when you think of science fantasy, when you think of that world, you think of a lot of different races. and then just a lot of crazy tech that you can make
Oh,
all
yeah.
of your gear
Oh,
better.
yeah.
So it's really cool that we're actually able to address that and add that to the mix so that people's characters can be completely customized
Yeah.
to them. So that's great. What else are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, that's really, the weapons are just the first section of the book. We got tons of armor, also powered armor. A lot of people have been saying, we want more powered armor. We got a couple of really cool examples. One of my favorite ones is called the Spellcaster's Aegis. And this is a powered armor that's designed for spellcasters. And so if you can use magic in any kind of way, you can put on this powered armor. It's got these defensive runes around it that help you defend you against magical effects and all that kind of stuff. And plus, of course, there's other powered armor for non-spellcasters as well, but that's a cool thing just for them.
Oh, that's so cool. And I think that people have been maybe politely asking for something like that from the very beginning.
A little bit.
So it's kind of cool that we can do that.
We got vehicles and new vehicles in there too. A lot of the sections that were we didn't have a whole lot of room for in the core rulebook, we were able to expand a lot in this book and provide a lot more options.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's great. That's great. Putting this thing together, we've got a few more things to show, and we won't get to it. We're going to hold it a little bit. So, putting the book together, what was the experience? Like, what was the experience of getting all of these things and kind of? I imagine it was a lot of brainstorming.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of brainstorming. One thing that worked really well is last year at Gen Con we had a design workshop where we had a bunch of people come in and it was, hey, pitch us your ideas for new items of equipment that you want. And so we had a lot of great fans in there talking all about what they wanted to see in the game, and we made a big list and we looked at that and tried to incorporate as many of those as we could. One really cool thing that came out of that was something called the teleportation puck, with like a little hockey puck disc kind of thing that you can slide across the floor and it hits somebody and boop, teleports them somewhere else.
Oh, they're just gone. They're just out of there.
Yeah, well, maybe you can find where they are, but that's just one of the ideas that came out of that workshop that the fans did, and that gave us a good springboard. And then there was just lots of stuff that, either from adventures or from the book, you're like, wow, I wish we had this. Well, now's the time to put it in.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. I would imagine that along the lines of putting books together and things like that, where you're kind of just throwing everything in the kitchen sink and stuff and trying to see what sticks, it's got to be one of the more exciting types of books to put together. What are the things that make you pump the brakes, where you're like, oh, we actually can't do this, and here's why?
Well, I don't know if I want to talk about what's not in the book.
I mean, like, what are some of the things you have to think about to be like, we gotta be careful on this?
Well, you don't want to unbalance the game too much or provide something that's going to give somebody too much of an advantage over other things. I mean, one of the things that one of the strengths of Starfinder, I think, is with this leveled equipment system. It does give a very clear sense of when something's going to enter the game and when it's not. There's some ideas that were maybe just a little too wahoo and crazy, or we don't quite have the rules to model that well, and we didn't have room in this book to really present a whole lot of new actual like rule subsystems. So we kind of held that for later, but yeah, just that kind of stuff. Really, we had so much. Really, the problem is that we had to cut things for space more than anything else because we just couldn't fit everything we wanted to in this book. But we did get a lot in there.
Speaking of things in this book, what else is in there?
I mean, like I said, pretty much any sort of equipment that you can find in the core rulebook. We have expanded versions. There's a lot more augmentations. The core rulebook has biotech and cybernetic augmentations. The Armory adds 2 new augmentation types. One is Necrotech, which actually showed up in the Starfinder Adventure Path, but it's kind of been expanded for this if you want to graft undead body parts onto yourself. There's also the Magitech augmentations, which are exactly what is the blend of magic and technology, such as anti-magic skin. You can get all your skin replaced with this anti-magic stuff that gives you spell resistance. So
interesting.
Yeah, just crazy stuff like that. Yeah.
I like these ideas.
Yeah, cool. we've got tech items, we've got new magic items. Another thing that I think people were asking for with the technological items is, the mechanic gets a drone, a little robot buddy to kind of travel around with them. But it's like, if you're not a mechanic, what do you do? Well, we've got domestic drones now that you can buy for your character. It's not quite the same way as a mechanic's drone because that's a class feature, but these guys are little personal robots you can buy. There's physician drones, if you need somebody to heal you when you drop down, or stuff like that.
So they're actually helpful in battle.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
gonna
totally.
Take care of you. I like that. I like that a lot. And I have a couple more images on here, but I don't know what.
Yeah,
what
well,
they are.
there's we've got more magic stuff as well. There's a funny story if people have played Pathfinder and older editions. There's the Wand of Wonder, and one of our developers, Owen Stevens, he was running a game for PaizoCon, and somebody had the idea of a grenade of wonder. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a wand where you just basically every time you use it, you roll and you get a random effect. And we were like, well, for Starfinder, that should really be a grenade. And so when Owen said that this came up in this game he ran, I was like, we're totally putting that in there. So there's now a grenade that you throw.
So it's there.
Yeah, and it's got completely random effects every time you throw it. Might be good, might be bad, but that's half the fun is finding out what it is.
There's a table included with that, I assume.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
everything.
Which you roll D percentile on and all that kind of
love
stuff.
that stuff. That's great.
And then there's even there's these little personal items and other purchases, which is kind of a catch-all. We had one of our freelancer that was working on that pitch some ideas. He had some really good ideas, and one of them was, well, I want to do a thing about the cuisines of the Pact Worlds, the different types of food. And I was like, well, we're really about doing equipment here. Food is food and everything. That maybe that's not the best fit. He went ahead and wrote it anyways. I read the turnover. I was like, that is incredible. It's in the book, so if people want to know what Sheeran cooking is like, what it's like going to a Vesk fast food joint, or what Yosoki are going to do when they're sitting on the couch watching the tri-vid, you've got those details now. That's just a little bit of flavor that we were able to put in there. It's like, what is it that these different major races of the Pact Worlds eat? So
I love that. That's great. And it adds to the immersion, which I think is so much better. It always helps me play a character when I have more of that information, more of that background to help connect everything with. So I love that. I think it's great. What else do you want to take some questions, or do you want to?
Well, there's one other thing too that we've got in there besides all this equipment for further customization. We've got a whole section of class options that are basically gear-based class features that you can add to the classes. It's for all 7 classes. For example, the Mystic is in there. Well, all of them are in there, but the Mystic has a lot of new class features you can add on that deal with biotech. So if you want to be a mystic who really gets involved in biotech, there's lots of options for that. But there's new options for soldiers, technomancers, everybody in there that's not actually equipment, but based on equipment or gear in some kind of way.
Nice, nice. And then I also assume that there are ships or transport and all of that sort of thing.
There's not ships in this book. The 2 big things we didn't cover in this were starships and computers.
Oh, right, okay.
We did, you may have talked about it with Jason earlier about the new starships in Pact Worlds, so we just did a bunch of new starships, and we do a new starship in every volume of Starfinder AP. So we're pretty good on starships. Computers, we wanted to really do something more with those later, hopefully, so we kind of left those out. But we do have lots of vehicles, so if you need a hover tank or a big helicopter or I can't even remember all the different ones, but tons of new vehicles too that you can ride around in, fly around in. All that kind of stuff.
So these are more land-based, like over...
Land, sea, and air, just not space.
Okay.
Well, maybe some of them can go into space too.
Well, see, now you're just breaking all your own rules, buddy. Sorry. So then, compiling this whole book and everything and looking back on it, what's the one thing you put in that book and you're like, when I'm playing next time, my character will have this item.
Oh wow, there are so many different things. I actually, one of the things that I like is not like a big complicated like super weapon or everything. It's basically a little umbrella / sunshade that you can set up and it'll just hover above you and travel with you to keep the rain off and everything. So I like a lot of those little like flavorful things that are just like, it's like if you don't want to have to carry around your clear plastic umbrella from Blade Runner, you can actually just have it hover above you and stay tethered to you. So those kind of little things are what I like a lot.
The little perks.
Yeah.
I like it. Do we want to take a question or two? We have a little bit of time. We're almost out, actually.
Right,
we're getting towards the end, but I see a couple questions in here. So I thought I would find out how much inspiration was taken from Dragonstar for the equipment. I'm not familiar with Dragonstar.
We tend to not look at other games specifically when we're working on them because we don't want to copy any of that kind of stuff. I mean, there's so many tropes that are kind of everywhere, so there may be some overlaps. Some of our freelancers may have been, inspired by that or other things, but we didn't specifically look at Dragonstar or anything because we really want to do like our game and not have it be everything be compared to something, to something else.
And then one of the things I found most fascinating about the core rulebook was the attribute page. Like it was, these were all of our influences and everything like that. And that was a really fascinating page to read through. It was really, really fun. So Paizo is retweeting Mark of the Dragon's question is, do any of the power armors allow you to use your natural attacks?
Offhand, I'm not sure. That gets a lot more into the detail. I would have to go back and read through all of them. That's a good question, though. I'll have to go and check on that.
Let's see. Let's go main cam. Are there any power armors that will boost your effective strength above 20 or let you use your own natural strength if it's higher than the power armor's bonus?
Oh,
We're getting really in the weeds.
Yeah. Without the book in front of me, which we don't actually really have a physical book, I'm not sure I can answer those questions.
It's so new, we don't even have a copy to bring in. Like Jason had a visual aid, he could.
You're right.
Yeah.
But this doesn't come out till August, so
we don't have it yet. But we're about out of time for this right now. Anyway, Rob, thanks for coming in and giving us a preview of the Armory.
No problem.
Look for it in August. I believe it's launching with, is it a Gen Con release?
It should be a Gen Con,
Gen
definitely.
Con release.
Yeah.
So if you're at Gen Con, come pick it up or hit up your friendly local game store and get your copy there.
Totally.
Rob, thank you so much, buddy.
Thank you.
Good to have you in. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to be, we'll have Erik Mona in, so it's going to be fun. And we'll have some information about the Pathfinder Playtest and a little bit of information about some giveaways. So we'll see you all in just a few minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm here with Erik Mona, publisher and chief creative officer of Paizo.
That's me.
We are here just to talk a little bit about Pathfinder Playtest.
Ooh.
Answer questions that you might have.
Very good. Wait, my questions?
Answer questions they
might have. Oh, okay.
We have a brief announcement, and then we've got a giveaway that Eric's going to do.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Okay. Great. I kind of forgot about that.
Yeah.
But I'm on top of it.
Okay. Sounds good. So if you have questions for the Pathfinder playtest, start rolling those in right now. Let's do the announcement. The announcement is basically, if you want the printed copies, if you want physical copies of the Pathfinder playtest, time is running out.
That's true. It's like goldfish. Time is running out. Up until, 11:59 on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So
Tuesday
time
night.
is really running out, and that's Pacific time, so you'll have to modify that by wherever you're watching from. But if you want to get paper copies of the Pathfinder Playtest Rulebook, the Pathfinder Playtest Adventure Doomsday Dawn, or the Flipmat Multi-Pack, you got to get your orders in by 11:59 on Tuesday.
Pacific.
Or you may not get them. I mean, to be totally honest.
Right.
We've been going through with our distributors and different retail places that carry our stuff, and all those numbers are starting to come in. And so, it's the best way to guarantee that you're going to get a copy is to order from Paizo.com or to go to your local retailer and order it from them as well. They can put in an order just as easily. They'll have it for you day of release, which is in August.
Yes.
And so whichever is more convenient to you is the best way to go. But there will be some available in stores, but I think they're going to go really quickly.
I think so too. I think the thing that we want you to keep in mind is that we will not be printing this again. The core rulebook, it's not going to be reprint. So you got to kind of make sure.
Yeah, we only really get one bite at the apple, so to speak, with this, because by the time it gets out, we're going to start taking feedback on the playtest immediately with an eye toward getting out the final versions of the core rulebook the next year. And so there just isn't time within the playtest window to make a change. So we're only doing it once. We did it back in 2007 or 2008 when we did this the first time and made, in the 5 digits numbers of copies, and they just sold out right away. So we're already seeing the numbers come in. They're very good, but again, it's just not about the big numbers. This is about the number of copies you want at your table, and you're really going to want to get that order in by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time next Tuesday.
Great. I'm seeing some questions coming in here.
Yes.
Let's see. So how plug and play is Pathfinder 2.0 with Starfinder?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. They're not designed explicitly to work hand in hand. Frankly, Pathfinder 1 and Starfinder are not designed to work seamlessly hand in hand. There's the legacy section that will offer conversion tips and whatnot. I think certain things will end up being pretty easy to implement into your Starfinder campaign. I think you could, for example, take the action economy that we're introducing with Pathfinder 2nd Edition and map it to Starfinder. Now, to do that appropriately, you'd also have to go into all the spells and sort of say, okay, well, this is a somatic action and a material action. That's 2 actions to cast a spell. So there would be a little bit of work that you would have to do. It kind of remains to be seen, I think. But the playtest itself is not super compatible with Starfinder. It's just not one of the goals. I think you'll be surprised by how frequently you'll find like an item or something that would work just great, but that was not one of the design goals, was to make Pathfinder 2nd Edition compatible with Starfinder. They're their own games. They obviously have a lot of shared DNA, but they're doing their own things.
Right, right. Let's see, I like this question. Where'd it go? No, it's going too fast. Hang on a second. Where can they
get it signed?
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah,
right
okay.
There.
So how can I get my Pathfinder playtest pre-order signed? Honestly, the best bet is to either bring it to Gen Con or set it up to be picked up at Gen Con if you're going to be at Gen Con, because our entire staff will be there. Of course, after that, you could bring it to PaizoCon 2019.
Right.
Anywhere Paizo staff is, they'd be more than happy to sign it for you. But there's not going to be an autographed option, for pre-order or anything like that. We're not planning to do an autographed edition at release.
No, I think UK. No, not UK games. We won't have. Oh, PAX Unplugged will be at
PAX Unplugged will be there. We'll be at let's see, PaizoCon UK. I think is pre-Gen Con.
Yeah.
PAX Unplugged is probably the first con post Gen Con. That's going to be in Philadelphia in like November, I think. And so you could do it there. But yeah, you pretty much got to find us. Now, when you do find us at shows, we're always more than happy to sign your books and stuff. But we're not offering an autographed edition of this book.
No. Let's see. Will there be a lore explanation on why the classes behave differently than before? I think we know where that's going.
Not really. I mean, there might be. I think that some of the new structures of like some of the bloodlines and some of the options for specialization within a class might open up opportunities for us to say, oh, okay, so there's a new bloodline and this is how that works in Golarion or what have you. But like, there's not going to be an in-world reason for why fighters now get reactions, or why you can raise a shield now instead of just having a flat bonus to your armor class. So the answer in terms of with class powers, not really, not really. And partly the reason that I say that is, again, we're all different. We all interpret things differently, but even though I think there's some really exciting and innovative changes that are being made to the class abilities, the class features, and the flexibility within the choices that people make to customize their character, I personally don't think of any of those changes as like world changing, really. In terms I don't know. Maybe I'm just overlooking something, and I'm certainly open to if someone's like, I read something in a blog, and it seems like it would require an entirely different planet to work. I'm definitely open to that. I don't really see things that way, so it's hard for me to zoom in on a specific example. But no, not really.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. Let's see. Do all classes have spell points, or just all classes that had 3+ mod per day spell? It's moving. Like abilities are similar?
Not all classes have spell points, because not all classes cast spells. The classes that do cast spells, I think all of them do have spell points.
Right.
I need to verify that with the manuscript, but I'm pretty sure that they do. I think that sorcerers get them. Well, I'm not going to go through the list, but yes, I think if you're a spellcasting class, I believe you do get spell points, but I'm not 100%.
Right, right. Then there's a talk about will Pathfinder 2.0 be backwards compatible with 1.0?
Yeah.
Or at least make converting easy
Yeah,
and
we're
straightforward.
definitely going to have like some tips for conversion.
Right.
Probably not in the playtest rulebook. In fact, definitely not in the playtest rulebook. We so a little behind the scenes. We're actually like finishing the playtest rulebook essentially today.
Oh, nice.
It goes to the printer next week, and so mostly of next week is going to be about looking over final printouts, kind of fixing the last few typos here and there. But in terms of like, oh, let's add a section on this, or let's cut this out of the book, all those decisions have been made at this point. So I can say with pretty good authority, as long as I can remember, what's in the book and what's not. And right now there's not extensive conversion stuff in the book because that's not what we're playtesting. We're playtesting the basic rules and trying to make sure that they make sense. Right. And then once we sort of solidified those things into the final rules, we will definitely be providing some tips and guidelines on how to convert stuff. Absolutely.
Nice.
And I think it depends, again, I think it depends on your point of view. I mean, one of the things that's been very clear to me reading our message boards, the responses to the blogs, and looking on Reddit and all that other stuff, people feel very differently about this game. You know, I mean, some people feel you can make a minor change and someone's like, I love that. And then the other guy's like, I'm sharpening my axe. I hate that idea. And so part of the playtest is going to be listening to all those voices, trying to balance them and kind of maybe making some changes, or maybe not in some cases, but listening to feedback and then figuring out the best way to sort that feedback and implement it. And things could change pretty drastically because of that. And so I'm sure there are some elements of the game that, or of the playtest rules that are not going to change, things that we like that once we get them out, people are like, yeah, this is really cool, but it will change. And so we don't want to spend a lot of time on like, okay, here's how to convert, you know, the Serpent Skull adventure path to the playtest version of the rules.
Right.
But it is something that we're going to be giving, I would say, at least as much guidance of how to convert first edition to second edition stuff as we did to how to convert Starfinder or Pathfinder stuff to Starfinder, for example. So that's all like a section of that book. So I don't know if there'll be a section in the final core rulebook that's about conversion, or if it'll be some online thing, or I'm not sure yet. That's a little bit further down the road, but yeah, we know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to want to like play through some of the old content, you know, with the new rules. I think there'll probably be some people who want to play through some of the new content with the old rule, you know. So like how we do that, I'm not sure yet, but it's definitely something that we are putting some serious thought into, and we know that there's going to be a lot of demand for that. And so we will have some guidelines for how to do that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's CR-based encounter creation methods improved any? It's a big pain to GM.
Mapping out XP budgets and CR ratings to balance potential encounter, even when numerically accurate. I will say that building encounters and balancing stuff out, there's been a lot of effort to simplify that and to make it easier to do. Whether or not the decisions that the design team have made are going to be the final versions or not, I think the playtest is going to tell us that. But I think that, you know, one of the things that you can be sure of is that when it comes to designing adventures, the Paizo staff has done a lot of that over the last decade. And so there are definitely things that our designers and developers wish were simpler, worked a little bit differently, and the whole CR system, and especially the experience points, is going to be significantly different, I think, in the new edition. There'll still be ways to, you know, oh, well, I'm a party of 5th level people. What's an appropriate challenge for us? All that. We're still doing that because, of course, you need to balance it, but we're not using exactly the same system. And something that's been mentioned in the blogs fairly early on, but I don't know that it quite got the traction that it maybe will over the course of the playtest, is they've also changed the way experience points work. So to go up a level, you just need to get, I think it's 1,000 experience points, and so every level's 1,000 experience points. So once you get to 1,001, you're at 1 experience point, and then you got to get another 1,000. So it's just, it's very, instead of like, oh, this is 11,600 experience points if you kill this creature, it's like, this is 100 experience points or whatever. And so we're simplifying the numbers overall, making them a little bit less fiddly, and hopefully that will help. Also, and this is a part of the rules that I have not delved too deeply in myself yet because it's more aligned with the monster download rather than the core rulebook. Making monsters is intentionally been significantly streamlined, and it's going to be interesting to see how the playtests response to that because I think it's like a trade-off. It's like, do you want monsters that are easier to create and customize on the fly? Or do you want monsters that look exactly like player characters and utilize every single, got to know every single thing you have to know about a character? Do you want that for a monster? And especially when that monster lives for 3 rounds. What's the balance there? And I think the designers have answered that question for themselves and in a way that they think is going to be appealing to a lot of players. But it's not really up to the designers, it's up to the players to tell us, if it worked out. So we'll see.
All right. Interesting. Let's see. Will classes have a unifying point mechanic?
A unifying point, like can you spend points to activate a feature or feat and or rage depletes points? Well, we've already talked about spell points.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And in a way, it does do that. In terms of the different classes, I'm trying to remember. I don't think they all have that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident that they don't.
All right. So really quick.
Yes.
We have Gen Con passes to give away.
Gen Con passes
from the lovely folks at Gen Con.
Hey.
Eric has a trivia question or two.
Okay. Yeah.
In your brain?
Trivia questions in my brain.
Yes.
Yes.
So what we'll do is you can follow me on Twitter. It's Dan_Servo. If you get this right, I will. Hey, there, Gen Con 1. We're gonna give away. Let's do a couple, like for two passes for each question. If you have 2 questions.
Okay. Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is the first person to respond in the chat that we see come up, we will get in touch with you. I'll send you a private message through Twitch from official Paizo's account, and there's my Twitter handle. Thank you, Jim. So we'll get in touch and we'll figure out. I can get these codes to you, and I'll give you all the fine print details that you'll need to know. But essentially, if you get these questions right, then you get 2 passes to Gen Con 2018, and we would love to see you there. So, Eric.
All right.
Question number 1.
Question number 1. The god of humanity in Galarian is named Eredin. Eredin, as many of you probably know, is also known as the last Aslanti, a survivor of the fallen Aslanti state. What is the name of the knighthood that to this day still follows Eredin and traces his lineage back to ancient Aslant? Who knows that?
We shall see.
Knights of Galarian. No. Shadius. That is not correct. I will accept up to 4 different answers, but that is not one of them.
All right.
Sorry, Shadius. The Moon Guard, that is a good question, a good answer, because in fact this knighthood is associated with one of the gods that Eredin worshipped, which is, I had it on the top of my head, but the Moon Goddess from Aslant. But no, not that. The Palatine Eye. No, not the Palatine Eye. Good guess, because Eredin's symbol is, of course, the eye.
That's right.
But the Palatine Eye is more of like a Masonic kind of organization, like a fraternal kind of organization involved. A Kavna. Thank you. Oilant Green.
Oilant Green.
No,
Awesome.
Wait. That's the name of the Moon Goddess, not the name of the knighthood.
Great.
But the Knights of Ozum. Good guess. Knights of Ozum, of course, were the famous Knights of Lastwall. Not the correct answer, but they also were tied into Erasni, the herald of Eredin, who's replaced by Elmade. I didn't realize that this would be so hard, but I did base it on a relatively obscure article I wrote. There you go. Somebody got it. Stephen Mambo, the Knights. Oh, wait. Close. That's actually not right.
What?
Knights of the Ioun Stone, he said.
Is it spelled?
No, it's not that it's misspelled. One of the words is not correct. I have to go to the judges. Stephen, you want to slightly revise the name there? You're so close. Isn't this fun? Instead of answering questions about 2nd edition, we're going through 9 wrong answers for my 2 obscure. All right. Molly and Mark both got it right.
Nice. Okay.
Yes.
So let's do this.
But sadly, Steve got it right, kind of, but now he's too late. So I'm going to let you. I don't want to get in between y'all.
Here's what we'll do. Jim, if you're running the official Paizo, can you whisper to them my work email address, and then I'll get in touch with all three of them, and then we'll work something out.
Okay,
So,
that'd be great.
yeah, absolutely.
So, yes, it was the Knights of the Ioun Star.
Nice.
I would have also accepted the Knights of the Aslanti Star. I would have also accepted Knights of the Western Star and Knights of the Eastern Star, because there are two sub things. Anyway, read the article in Pathfinder number 100 about Arid, and it has all the information about that. Now,
right.
is there another question, or does that cover us for both?
I think technically I just gave away 6
I think
passes.
you did. Yeah, you really did.
So
no more.
There's that. So anyway, yeah, I will make sure that all three of you guys in the chat are good. No, we're not going to roll for it. We're going to give it to
Congratulations,
all
everyone.
three. Thank you so much for
Oh,
participating.
look at how Mark, he's so nice. I wouldn't have gotten it without Stephen Mombo's near miss. If
yeah.
I should be selected, I will give mine to Stephen.
You get
That's
to
all
keep
between
it.
y'all.
You get to keep it. Don't
Yeah.
worry. We'll take care
Y'all
of it.
go to Gen Con!
It's all fine. Yeah.
I gotta say, Gen Con is one of my favorite conventions in the whole world. I first went
it's a
there
blast.
in 1995 to GM some RPGA Living City adventures with some friends. And I have not missed Gen Con since. I've never missed it. Every year I go.
Wow.
Because it's a phenomenal
It is a lot of
experience. And the cool thing about Gen Con for me is when you've gone to Gen Con for that long, and if you're engaged in like Pathfinder Society or some organized play program, or if you work in the industry, for example,
Right.
you end up seeing the same people every year at the show, and they kind of become, it's like a reunion of old friends.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I love it. I love it. So I'm very excited to see you guys there.
Official Gen Con. Hi,
Yep,
thank
Shadius
you.
was there
Yes.
playing LC in '99. Very good. I was there as well as the intrepid staff photographer for Polyhedron magazine.
Probably
so I
remember
probably have a picture of you, Shadius, somewhere on my old $1,500 digital camera. Remember when that happened back in the day?
remember that.
That's not
they were worse than
well
your phone.
spent. Yeah, now they take a picture that's like worse than. I don't
that's
know,
awesome.
Like what an action figure. Yeah.
So congratulations to the three of you. I will get in touch with you. We'll make sure that you're taken care of course, the way that it all came together. Of course, there's going to be some drama, but we'll take care of it. I'm not worried about that. Gen Con's in Indy.
Yep, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yes. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Erik, thank you for joining me here.
Oh, I'm more than happy to come
Yeah.
anytime you'd like. And I saw some people in the chat sort of saying, I wish you'd answer more questions.
I
So
wish
right
we-
before the break, I said, Dan, let's just answer people's questions.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did.
We took our script and threw it out and just
So,
tried to do as much as we could.
Couple
here.
quick things,
Yes.
if you don't mind.
Yes.
I just wanted to tell people that earlier today, Sarah Robinson, our art director, got a big package in the mail from Wayne Reynolds, the artist, because we are going to scan all of the illustrations to get the best possible scans
Nice.
for the book. And she handed me Wayne's cover for the playtest rulebook, which is literally in the building right now, and it looks so awesome.
Oh,
it looks
that's
so
amazing.
awesome.
Oh,
So
great.
I just wanted to kind of like geek out for a second. It's so exciting. Now that we're basically done with this thing, I can say officially Wayne Reynolds is the only interior illustrator for the playtest book. So if you like Wayne's art, there's just a ton to like. There's a bunch of stuff we haven't even shown on the blog yet. It's super cool. So anyway, I just want to geek out.
Yeah.
I got to hold the painting in my
her
hand.
I saw her carrying stuff.
So awesome.
pretty
So
badass.
that's thing number one.
Okay, thing one.
Thing number two is just a reminder.
Okay.
Tuesday at 11:59 is when we are cutting off orders for pre-orders, I should say, for the playtest rulebook. We will never reprint the playtest rulebook. We will never reprint Doomsday Dawn. These things, of course, will also be available as free PDFs on Paizo.com in August when they drop for real.
Everything August 2nd.
That's I can't
First
remember
day
for
of
the
Gen Con.
tops. Yeah, for the moment I can't remember, but yes, August 8th, somewhere in there. That we should
Official
probably
Gen Con's
memorize
in
that.
there.
It's just the publisher and the guy who runs the media. I don't know why we would need to know that. Is this going to be an every Friday thing, Dan?
Yeah.
Every Friday.
You got me every Friday. This is only like our fourth episode. The first two were test runs, so they were just fraught with with technical issues. They've gotten better. There's still a lot of improvements that we're going to make. There's still a lot of stuff to do. But yeah, every Friday we're going to keep doing this and kind of honing it and getting it together and all that. So
Grognard Supreme has an important question. Would you like to read it for me?
So anyway, Erik,
Yes.
how was your Abadarian cleric?
My Abadarian cleric,
Can you talk-
Arconus Severus.
Where?
Ooh, is how he speaks. Arconus is my Abadarian cleric who
What have
is on the Glass Cannon podcast every once in a while. And I will say, I just had a chat with the Glass Cannon guys last week, and I think he's going to appear again at least one time this year. So Arconus, next time I'm in New York, he will be making a triumphant appearance. So I'm very excited about that.
All right.
Thank you, Grognard, for asking the most important
Thank
question
you.
of the night.
Thank you for doing that. That's wonderful that you would give him that platform. All right, we will see you next Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific again. And again, follow me on Twitter or send me emails, dan.tharp@paizo.com. I'd love your feedback. It's definitely a work in progress still, so the show's constantly changing until we figure out exactly what we want to do. So
It's can I read a couple things that just popped on here?
Go.
I can't help but notice that Mark of the Dragon just said, during the entire playtest period, it would be wonderful to have an ongoing Q&A with the dev team to take questions and feedback live from players in playtests. I will say, that's the plan. That's exactly the
the way
plan.
we started this when we did, because we want to get up and running. By the time that playtest is running, we want to have all of our cylinders moving for this thing so that we have our system down.
Yep.
So that when it is really important to communicate with everybody out there, that we have this thing set. So that's where we're at right now.
Well, there's something really great about the immediate give and take. You know, I mean, you could ask questions on message boards and, here's the long form answer, or you could just boom, boom, boom. Another thing I hope we get to do, which I think is part of the plan as well, is to actually live stream some games of the playtest from here as well.
Yeah.
So this is only the beginning. This will continue to grow and we'll keep refining it. And your feedback is really helpful in that regard as well.
It is.
And
It
Dan, thank you
absolutely
for getting this thing off the ground.
Yes, of course. Anyway, thank you for joining us on this Friday. I hope you have a great Friday night. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. For Erik Mona, for Rob G. McC, and for Jason Keeley, thank you for joining us on Paizo Friday. Tonight we've got Dragons and Things are streaming. Glass Cannon probably will be streaming. They usually do some gaming and things like that. And beyond that, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.